Welcome to the Bringing Simplicity podcast, where launches come to life. I'm Judy, the co-host and co-owner of Bringing Simplicity. I've been helping businesses build their launch processes for hypergrowth by simplifying sales and hiring. I'm committed to your success through leveraging your people and systematizing for scale.
I'm Greta, co-host and co-owner of Bringing Simplicity. I've been helping businesses launch successfully for over a decade by multiplying their results through simple processes. I'm a data lover and technology lover who obsesses over every KPI. So grab your laptops and lattes and get ready to launch with simplicity.
Okay, friend.
I'm super excited to talk to you today, Judy, because we've had a week and I feel like sometimes I wish that the world could just be in on all of our conversations because they've been fun this week, haven't they? So we're coming here with something that you probably don't want to hear, but it's the facts, people. You are not going to make sales without sales calls. Yep, I said it. You're going to see all these people selling courses of record your live webinar and make sales passively, make sales while you sleep. For the majority of us who are not Russell Brunson, who are not Tony Robbins, who are not name your other Alex Hormozi, Leila Hormozi, like that does not work. You will not make sales without sales calls. Fight me on it.
Okay. So let the comments roll in. As Greta says, I don't have to what is going on here? Why are they talking about this? Like, obviously everybody knows that we love sales. If you're listening to this and you know us, you know 100% we love sales. But Greta, you're trying to tell me that I can't sell anything without a sales call?
I mean, I personally, maybe it's because I have you in my ear constantly. I'm not saying you can't sell anything. I kind of think you shouldn't sell anything because I think there's so much value to the sales call. And I think a lot of times the reason people don't want to do a sales call is not because of quote unquote a passive income stream. It's because they're afraid of that sales call.
Yeah, totally. Agreed. And just so everybody's clear, we're mainly talking about high ticket offers. Anything over 10K is generally what we see high ticket, sometimes 5K. It just depends on your industry and all of that. So we 100%, every client that we work with who sells high ticket, we're walking them through the sales call process. We're building a sales call funnel, a booking, like to book a call. We're doing all of those things. And Greta, you're 100% correct that you can't sell without these. And we're going to dive a little bit deeper into why you can't sell, when is a good time to sell, what sales does for you, who should be doing this, and how they're beneficial to your business. But even like you mentioned a couple big names, like even Russell Brunson and Leila Hormozi and all of them, at some point in time, they did sales calls. They're actually still doing them. I think like if you were to hop on and try to go to Alex and Leila's like 2-day, 3-day event in their office in Vegas, like you actually have to hop on a call with them before they do that. And I'm going to tell you here shortly why they do that, because the Hormozis, they could sell you an event. Like I wouldn't need to get on a sales call to be like, hey, let me drop 5K to go see them. Like 100%, like would not need it, but they do it. They still do it for a reason. So why are they doing it? Why are some of the people who are still making millions doing sales calls, and you're seeing all of these other people that are saying, you don't need a sales call, you can make money passively, sell your stuff in the DMs and all that. And by the way, you can, like we have seen people sell stuff and sell their products, courses, services in the DMs, but that's a specific type of product, course, and service. And we're going to break it down on what that is.
Or we can argue they're following the 3 C's to the nth degree. And so they don't need sales calls, quote unquote, because they're facilitating their sales calls in a different way. But they're still technically having those conversations with the people who are buying from them.
No matter what you call it in your business, you're performing a sales call at some point in time. If you're making sales, you're doing a sales call. It may not be, like you said, Greta, it may not be quote unquote a sales call, but you're doing the first part of your pitch with your intro, like your first 5 interactions on DM. And then you're sending a voice message 2 weeks later. Like it's somewhere built in your funnel that you're doing it and you're having more touch points. But we're going to show you
I
and
was going to
tell
say,
you.
this is so juicy. Like, I just want to get
It's
to
so
it all
good.
because I mean, like, even with everything you're saying, I'm like, oh, I want to dive in more because I want everybody to hear your brain. Because even with that, people are like, I don't have time for sales calls.
Mm-hmm.
But if you think about it, if you're not having sales calls, the amount of time that goes into making the sales is probably more than if you had just hopped on a call.
100%. Okay, so let's dive into it.
I know. I'm like, what does it mean,
Why are the
Judy?
people that are already making millions, like the Hormozis, doing sales calls still when they could sell 5K event, no problem? Come see them, meet them in person for 2 days, right? Why are they doing that? I'm going to tell you that they're doing it. And these are the reasons too why we tell our clients to.
Yeah.
When it's something new to you, you're selling a new product or service, you're going to get so much benefit out of doing sales calls. So the main things that these sales calls are going to do is they're going to allow you to gather data, Greta, which you love, right? Gather
Yes.
the
My favorite
information,
part.
right? And you're going to learn the pain points of your actual clients, customers, your ideal avatars to improve your marketing and your sales. You're going to be able to get feedback to improve your products or services. You're going to improve your closing rate when you have sales calls, higher close percentages. You're going to decrease the time in the funnel that your person comes in, right? Because those people that are doing DMs interactions, yes, Greta, like you said, they might have the 3 C's. And if you want to know what the 3 C's are, just really quickly, they are connection, conversion, and commitment. Those are the 3 C's that we live by. And that's what's really going to take your business from a tiny little business to like an actual, like multi-million dollar business.
Right.
So you're going to decrease their time in the funnel, and then you're going to increase overall, which is the number one thing that we look at and we bring it all together when our clients work with us, is you're going to increase their lifetime value overall when you're starting to build your rapport and build that relationship during those sales calls. So Greta, data. What data are you gathering on sales calls?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is so much data you can collect, which gets me super excited. But what we're really looking at when you are doing sales calls and getting people to sales calls is the quality of individuals who are coming to those sales calls. And that's not to say there's like good quality and bad quality of people, but there is people who are a good fit for your program and people who would be better served by somebody else or something else, right? And so anytime you're creating marketing and sales strategies, there's a little bit of a guessing game of, is this message going to speak to my audience, the audience I want to work with? So when you actually have sales calls, first of all, you can see, do people show up? So is this a problem that is so much pushing on them that they're willing to show up and talk to you about that problem and find out about the solution you have to offer? So it's going to help you gut check. Am I solving a problem that's causing enough pain for my audience that they want to take action?
Mm-hmm.
So show rates is the first. So you're going to want to say, I had all of these booked calls. How many people showed? Now there's so many nuances to even that, of like time of booking to like time they get to their appointment. And we could go into that a ton, but I'm just going to say straight show rates. Okay, so we're getting on the phone and we're talking to those people. First of all, we never expect somebody to convert on the first call. This is all about that connection piece, getting to know them, hearing what they're struggling with, finding out if you even are the right fit. Like, you should not be trying to sell yourself until you have a really clear understanding of who that person is and what they need. Don't assume that your product is going to solve it.
I love what you just said. So if you're hearing Greta right now and you're listening to this, the sales call is to determine whether, yes, it's whether they are the right fit. It's two things, Greta, I heard you say at the beginning is, hey, can I even solve their problem? Are
Mm-hmm.
they even the right fit? And then also, are you the one to solve their problem? Because maybe the way you solve their problem isn't the best for them, which is
Yep.
why these sales calls are so beneficial, because you don't want that person to come into your program 2 weeks in and they buy and they say, oh, shoot, you can't help with that. Can I
Mm-hmm.
have a
A
refund?
refund.
And that's the reason why I also, especially if you're doing group coaching programs, this creates an environment where people start to question themselves, start to question your program. And that's the reason why people like who are intelligent and know sales and know people, because sales is the psychology of people. You really will
Yes.
learn and accelerate your knowledge, your IQ on your clients and your people and how to serve them when you're doing these sales calls. And that's why people like the Hormozis are still doing them, even though people would and pay probably double of whatever their in-person event is without a sales call. But they don't want those people in the room. They don't want to. They don't have the energy to. They don't want to work with people. And you probably, if you're listening to this, you don't either. You know what people I'm talking about. You don't want to work
And
with
it's for you.
those
It's going to
people
be
again.
different for every single person, right? Like
Exactly.
you've had a client where you're like, never doing that again.
Mhm.
Now
We've
I
all
know
had
what
that.
those red flags are.
Yep, exactly. And this will help you prevent that and prevent those conversations where you're like, oh, then you have open seats. And then also it decreases your ability to then get testimonials in the end
Mhm.
because they're not your ideal person. Okay. So
The
sales call.
last piece of data, one more piece of
Yes.
data, is you
Yes.
do want to figure out from those sales calls how many people actually buy. So, what is your close percentage? And if you're in our free community, which if you're not, we'll drop the link below. I just recorded a training on kind of all of the data that you look at when you're running ads, which touches on these, like your cost per lead, your cost per book call, and then your cost per sale, because that ties to a bigger part of like your marketing budget. But when you think about your close percentage, again, if you have a low close percentage, it's a couple things. Is my offer not on point or is my sales process not on point? So you can start analyzing, do I need to switch the way I'm talking, present more value to the person in order for them to close because they were a perfect fit? Or have I identified somebody has a problem I can solve, clearly articulated I can solve it, but then don't have an offer that actually meets their needs, right? So when you have sales calls, you can collect this data and figure out what you need to shift and mold your
Mhm.
program and how you're presenting it.
Exactly. The sales calls, if you're listening to this is the number one thing. It's almost like we reverse engineer it when we start with your sales calls. That's one of the first things that actually I go over with all of our clients is let me hear your sales calls because that helps us build a better product, a better marketing plan, and build items into the funnel, Greta, like
Mhm.
you said. And I just want to really like iterate a really important point is that those sales calls give you the pieces that you need to market better, to operate better, to build a better funnel. And
Yep.
that's why we are a marketing, sales, and operations agency because we, as the marketing team, do the sales or work with you. Your marketing and your sales should be talking to each other nonstop
Constantly.
at the beginning, like nonstop until you really dialed it in and you like, oh yeah, our ads are on point with our audience. Like your salespeople, and if you don't have a sales team, it's you. Even if it's like commenting in the DMs, those are sales, it's you. Is going to tell you
Yep.
immediately, like, hey, these are not like the
Like
leads.
these are not the leads. We're not hitting on the right
Yeah,
pain points. Like
we're
we
not.
need to refresh the way we're saying that because we are not calling in the right people. Yeah.
Exactly. Immediately. And you want to know that now. You don't want to know that like 3 months from now. And sales calls should be happening like days, hours after you start marketing. Like those are happening immediately. So that way you can make tweaks. And that's why we are able to take a 40K business to $1 million in 8 months because we work in all aspects to get that messaging down immediately.
And we're
Uh,
tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking and tweaking.
Always.
And that also, if you haven't listened to our first episode, Complexity is the Killer of Success, you are not able to flip quickly if you're too complex. So, like, do the same thing over and over again until you get it perfected, because then you control the variability. I gotta love data, but you control what needs to be changed. Like, you're in control of what is causing the sale, right? Like, oh, it was my landing page. Oh, it was my pitch. Oh, I had the wrong ideal client. So you want to keep stuff as simple and streamlined as possible. And the sales
Yep,
calls really help you identify those elements.
exactly. Love it. Okay. So we talked a little bit about when sales calls are needed. So I'm just going to run through those really quick. I said it a bit ago is during a high ticket offer you have an ongoing like membership type of funnel that you have, right? Like those are typically, if you're going to be working with them for a long time, you probably want to know if you're going to like them, if you're going to hang out with them, right? Like these sales calls are kind of like interviews, right? The third thing is if you're doing like a coaching or mentoring program as well, again, you're going to be spending some time with them. And then if you have guarantees, if you have a guarantee, you 100% want to get on a call with them.
Yep.
Okay, this takes me back to the human psychology. Every single salesperson, and by the way, like one of my favorite books to read if you want to learn about human psychology is Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss. It's an amazing book. It's super long, but every person in sales should read it. I actually think every human should read it personally. But the human psychology behind why people make decisions. And it's all about persuasion and influence, right? At the end of the day, it's about persuading and influencing. People want to make a decision. They
Mm-hmm.
want to. They want to know whether this is for them or isn't for them. And again, it will help you if you have a guarantee, you got to know the type of people. Like if you have a guarantee, you're definitely drawing in those people who are high achievers and say, like, prove to
Yeah.
me that you can do this. I need to know that I can trust you. But there's a small percentage that you're driving in that are like, after like 3 months, I'm just going to ask for my money back. You'll be able, if you know human psychology, you'll be able to tell who those people are when you get on sales calls.
Yep.
So those are when they are necessary. So when they aren't necessary and it's a quote unquote sales call, booked appointment isn't necessary. And again, Greta, I know you're going to argue
I
that
know. I'm like, fight
you
me.
are doing the sales calls in the DM and you're doing them at some point in time. And it's consistent. You're having the sales okay, I'm going to say this. You're having a sales conversation at some point in time if you're not doing a quote unquote sales call booked appointment to sell your item. You're having
Mm-hmm.
ongoing sales conversations. And that's what you're doing. And those you can do if you're selling like products under $500. People are probably going to buy those, right? If you're selling services, like if you're selling beauty services, yeah, like I'm going to buy my facial, my $300 facial package or whatever,
Yeah, I don't need a sales
makeup,
call for a facial.
right?
Yeah.
Like you don't need sales calls for things like that. We're not talking about services like that. Oftentimes, if you're doing an event, that's very clear. Like people are typically coming because of the speaker, the keynote speaker, or whatever they're going to get, right? If you have a free trial within your product, like maybe you have a platform like service SaaS products, a lot of times those, you don't need a sales call for that, right? Like typically, like Honeybook isn't running sales calls. You don't need a sales
Yeah.
call to buy Honeybook. So those are items where, okay, you don't need a sales call for,
All
right?
right, Judy, but I can already see people in here who are like, well, you said high ticket's 10K, my program's 4K, and it hasn't sold yet. And then we ask back, do you do sales calls? And they say no. And then they refer back and are like, well, you said it's only needed for high ticket. So, like, what is that cutoff? Because I know we're saying high ticket is 10K, but like, what if it's
Mhm.
2,000? What if it's 4,000? What if it's 5,000? How do you know? Like, what would be a mental checklist for you that you would be like, okay, yeah, I'm not going to have a sales call? Because we definitely have clients who are
Mhm.
selling $1,000 course off ads that are like, we aren't even trying to sell the course. People are just seeing them and buying. And it has to do with this specific person's personality,
Mhm.
but it is repeatable. So
Mhm.
talk to me about, because
Yes.
we've set a line of 10K and I don't know if that's even true. I'm
It's
going to
it's
fight you
not
on
okay.
this.
So this is typical, correct? So like we use that as a borderline 10K because that's kind of like we want a robust high ticket offer mastermind for our clients. Okay, but Greta, you're right. What if I have a 3K mastermind? I'm just starting off. I have a 4K product or course or whatever. How do I know whether I need a sales call or I don't? Okay, if you have not made at least $150,000
Selling that offer
selling your offer,
with testimonials.
right, with testimonials and not having like more than, and that by the way, like 90% retention, meaning like you have a few that have refunded. Sure, life happens. If you have not, and again, this goes back to data, if you haven't sold 150, 200, and by the way, if you're happy selling your 4 seats a month, you're like, fine. This isn't for you. We're talking to people who are trying to build multi-million-dollar businesses here.
Mhm.
That's what our tactics are for. Like when you're trying to build a multi-million-dollar business, yes, you can, do passively 40K a year on your course. But we're talking about if you want massive results and massive change for your people in a short amount of time and you want to impact more people,
Yeah.
your product, your course, your mastermind can really make an impact. And you're like, I want to help 1,000 people next year. Then this is the rate where you're like, okay, I'm going to have to add in a sales
But
call.
even that, I'm going to fight you on, Judy, because I'm even talking to the people who haven't made a sale. Like, we want you to make a massive impact.
Hmm.
But if you're also sitting here listening and you haven't made a sale, do the
Right.
sales call.
Like, okay, so if you haven't done six figures, and if you're not doing six figures in your products, courses that are in that price range that Greta just mentioned, under 10K, and I would say if you haven't made that in 6 months, you have to start implementing sales calls and hold yourself to it. Like this is day
Yep.
one. In 6 months, if I don't hit six figures, I need to start implementing sales calls. But what is the worst that could happen if you started to do sales calls?
Nobody
Right.
shows up, Judy.
Nobody shows up. Okay.
So
People
what does
don't like
that tell
you.
us?
Yeah. People don't like you. Nobody shows up, whatever the case may be. Correct. They're not going to show up. Get over yourself. People aren't, you know what I mean? Like there have been literal store openings where people like haven't come, but like, what are you doing? That takes it back to the marketing part.
Mhm.
You're not marketing right to the right audience to persuade them to show up for
Right. If you
themselves.
can't get them to come to a sales call, that's very telling of why they're not buying.
Right. But also, if you can't get them to come to a sales call, you're not going to get them to complete your course anyway, which
No,
isn't
it's
going to
true.
result in a testimonial. So you don't want those people anyway.
Yeah. So for those people who are listening who say, do I need to do a sales call? I'm not selling a high ticket offer.
Always. If you are a business
I
owner
don't
and
see, I'm telling you. So you're saying I'm right. You cannot make sales without sales calls. I'm going to stand by that. I will die on that hill.
okay, so here's what those people who are selling, who are quote unquote, I'm selling in the DMs, I'm doing all these things, they're working harder than if you were to do a sales call.
Mm-hmm.
A sales call is easier to be able to sell your product 100%. And what else it does is it allows you as a business owner to become better. It's going to improve how you deliver your product. You're going to find ways to improve your product. You're going to find ways to help your clients, your customers better, to be able to serve them better. And you're going to be able to impact more people. And whether it's becoming a better coach, mentor, business owner, speaker, whatever your thing is, you're going to become better by doing these sales calls. And those people who don't do them now, like Greta, you said, it's because they've worked so hard on the back end. And by the way, if they're not doing that now, they have worked years in a different job, probably their freaking 9 to 5, which I did a lot of being on sales. Like I've listened to 1,000 sales calls, like a
Probably
thousand sales
more.
calls, probably more at this point.
I was
Because I
going to
still
say, I
but
mean,
still,
with the
like
number of,
every
yeah,
day, by the way, I work with our sales team, whoever's on any of our teams, of our sales teams with our clients, and I listen to sales calls every day. We're listening to sales calls. We're looking at text messages. We're looking at all of those things.
I know. I'm
So
like, Judy, I already like can see like our next episode where Judy talks about like what are the things she's listening for? Because
yeah,
it literally like I will be like, okay, let's listen to this. And she'll ask me because she tries to teach me her knowledge. And she'll be like, what would you have coached him on? I'm like, I don't know, that sounded great. And then she'll tell me like the like most subtle tweak in the way he says things. And I'm like, mind blown.
yeah, 100%. And that's what these sales calls are doing. Like one, if you're selling something over 4K, you're probably talking to intelligent people. And
Yeah.
intelligent people love sales. They
Mhm.
love it. Everybody, if you want to talk about sales, they'll talk to you about it.
Yeah.
Like Russell Brunson, Myron Golden, like any CEO, any business owner on any podcast, anyone, like I would 100% they will talk to you about sales. They love it. Why? Because it's our way to build connection with people, influence
Yep.
them, and help them. We're helping them, we're serving them. And when you can learn sales, you can do anything. And that's the one thing is like every CEO and owner I've ever, by the way, I also hire for a lot of our clients. What's the one thing? Oh, if they've been in sales. If they have been in sales, we can teach them whatever they need to know
Yeah.
because that shows that you are willing to do the work, to learn about people, to care about people, to really find what is going to get them to make the change they need. Because at the end of the day, your offer, your product, or your service is needed. That's why they're reaching
Mhm.
out. That's why they're interested. They need it. They need it. And to help them see that.
I just want to like emphasize a lot of what you just said of I am going to die on the hill that every sale that happens has to include a sales call because of that connection piece. This is not about, I mean, we are all about making money. You guys know that. Like, we want everybody to make all the profits, but it is about the connection. It's about service. It's about getting to know the people you think you want to help.
Mhm. And this
And
is,
so if
by the way,
you're
sales
afraid to
calls,
get on a call with
right?
them, what does that say?
Right. And that says a lot about you. If you're willing to talk to me before I invest in you, that's going to build up your rapport, build your trust, build your credibility, especially when you're starting out and people don't know you.
Yeah. And depending on when this comes out, because we record these at various points, just
Yeah.
in general, the market is very hesitant right now. They're
Yeah.
they're craving authenticity. They're
Mhm.
craving to see you as a person. They don't want to see some super polished masterclass. They want to see you. They want to hear your heart and soul. Like there's a reason that we really stand by live virtual events versus
Mhm.
pre-recorded content
Yep.
because it allows people to see you show up authentically. And we almost always, I mean, I can't actually think of a time when we didn't include a live Q&A portion so that people can see what it would be like to work with you too.
To work with
Again,
you.
another layer of the know, like, trust. You also can tell from the questions they're asking, is
If they're
this
right.
somebody who I'm going to want to help mentor? Because is their mindset at the level where
Mhm.
I need it to be in order for them to have the results that I see other people in my program have? If they're
Right.
way down here and they're thinking about things that really don't matter, you may decide to pass. Again, this is all about mutually figuring out if it's a good fit.
Yeah. Exactly. And Alex Hormozi tells you this is like, hey, when you're doing these sales calls and they say, well, why don't I just go with Alex's program? And he tells he give by the this is free on, whatever his website, his YouTube, probably somewhere. But he says, because with Alex, you're not going to get to work with Alex. You're going to work with Alex's team. You're not going to get his attention. But with me, even if you're doing like you're going to get to work directly with me. I'm going to work
Yep.
with you. I want to see you succeed. I'm going to check in. I'm going to learn your business. I'm going to do all these things. You can tell them how you're going to show up differently. And again, it comes back to like you get to do so much competitive research when you're doing these sales calls. And I just want to point out that this is your shortcut to profits. Like
Yeah.
these sales calls are your shortcut to profits. Like one of the things that we do is one ads, right? Ads is one of them that we talk about, your funnel. And then the
Yeah.
last thing are these sales calls. Like we have seen people hit $1 million in revenue in 8 months by adding sales calls in. So if that's you, if that's something that you desire, you want, and a very great lifetime value, by the way, and retention rate at that rate, we're not just making $1 million and refunding half of it. You're like, we're making $1 million.
Yeah.
Right? That is going to be your shortcut to profits and your shortcut to be able to accelerate yourself. You're literally like, I feel like when you add in sales calls, Greta, you are going from like you're getting like your bachelor's, your master's, and your PhD all in one. Like you literally like it feels like that in like 3 months. Like our clients are like, whoa, I just learned so much about how I need to market, how I need to serve, how now I'm going to change my product. I'm going to update this. And Greta, like you said, during those live Q&As and those live webinars, you're learning about your customers, but then you're also like, you're improving your product at the
Yeah.
same time.
You're like, ooh, that's actually a really good module I should create for my
Yeah,
course. Like a lot of people ask questions on that. Yeah.
exactly.
Okay, I have one more follow-up question
Mhm.
because you have talked on this call with you work with our clients' sales teams, you work with their sales teams, but we've really talked this entire episode about the individual being the one doing the sales calls. So will I always have to be the one doing sales calls? And do I even ever have to be the one who does sales calls? Like, can I outsource it immediately?
Immediately, I would say no. Even if you are outsourcing it, you are working alongside that salesperson if you are gonna pass it on to somebody else at the beginning. In the first 3 months, I do not recommend anyone doing it but you as the
Okay.
owner of the product. And it is because also you know your audience, you know your competitors more than usually your salesperson. That person is going to need to get up to speed on your industry, on all of that. They're actually performing that research, but that's already in your head. You already know what other coaches are selling. You already know what you've likely been sold it. You
Right.
are usually the client that then becomes the coach to these other people. So you know what you've been sold and you're just doing it to gather more data. So yes, you should at the beginning
Okay.
100% be the one doing those sales calls. After about 3 months in business, then you have enough to be able to pass it on to somebody else. Now, are you good enough to coach the sales people? Maybe not. Maybe you hire an agency like us, or there's tons of great other ones out there that we've used, even that I've sourced setters and closers from. If you want to know who they are, message us on Instagram. I'll tell you. I've done a lot of research. I've met with all of them. That's part of why people come to us, is because we are a marketing operations tech sales agency. We meet with the other agencies as part of our research and to improve and get better. And we'll
Yeah.
say, like, hey, we want to partner. Like, a lot of it's partnership.
I say, because we also can't
Partnership.
always do
We
everything.
can't.
So
Yeah. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's not me that's the best based on their product and service. But eventually, yes, you will want to outsource that to a sale. Like, you want the experts doing that. Even for us, Greta, like if we were to say like, hey, we're gonna sell a 10K mask, like we wouldn't be selling our
I
own
know you
10K
never, you
mask.
can't do it for
We
yourself as well.
100% wouldn't, even though we do it for our clients. We
Yeah.
would not be doing it. So yes, and by the way, you hear this often if you see it, and you've seen it by all the coaches and mentors, is you're too close to it to see how amazing you are.
Hmm.
If you think about it, like who are your biggest cheerleaders? They're not yourself. They're
They
someone else.
should be yourself, but
They
it's
should be
usually not.
yourself, but they're not. You're going to be explosively saying all these
Yeah.
amazing things about yourself. And doing it over and over and over again is not a natural thing. It's just not a natural human thing.
Yeah.
So your salesperson, though, because they're incentivized to do so,
Yeah. They see all your value.
they will rave about you. And by the time they get to your mastermind, they're like, who's this celebrity? Like, you are amazing. And they never even met you.
Yeah.
Never even met you because of how the marketing operations and sales funnel is set up and how we set it up.
Okay, I'm laughing a little bit. I don't know if you saw me chuckle. But you were like, you should do your sales calls for the first 3 months. I just want to like emphasize that like doing your sales calls for the first 3 months doesn't mean like one per month, right, Judy? Like you're saying you should do your sales calls for the first 3 months, but like we quantify that because we're looking to get them a certain number of sales calls per month so that they can get the data and they can have the experience. So can you clarify that for everybody? Because they're
Okay,
like,
a
oh yeah, I
hundred
handled
sales
my
calls.
sales calls for 3 months.
100 sales calls. You should perform a minimum of 100 sales calls.
Okay.
100.
Oh my gosh. That's awesome.
And if you don't know me and you're on my team, you know that a lot of times I'll say this. I'll even do it to our clients. I'll be like, you need to minimally, and then it really is like 50, but I say 100 to
Yeah.
50.
I'm motivated.
Because you'll get to 50 in the 3 months. But yeah, Greta. So that's, I mean, 3 months, 100, however you want to frame it, you need to be doing a lot of sales calls to be able to build the skill and also to know who to hire for.
Yeah.
If you're not able to hire somebody in operations like us to be able to hire for you and to know exactly what to look for, how are you going to know what to look for?
Yeah.
And then how are you going to know what interview questions to ask, right? Or how are you even going to know
Which
what agencies to question? Like
I
what?
am okay. So you keep making me laugh today just because I think like this is such your wheelhouse. And so it's fun because I just get to come along for a ride. I will tell you that interviewing salespeople, because I typically participate in the interviewing process with Judy, but interviewing salespeople is hilarious because if you think about it, they are masters at sales and they do not stop that masters of sales when it comes to selling themselves. And so it would be hilarious because we would interview and then like video over, interview over, they would leave and like your BS meter is just like burp, 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 burp. I'm like, Judy, how much of that is legit? And she's like, oh man, like, let's look at this. And like, yeah, no, they're selling themselves too, right?
Yes, 100%. And by the way, I want to emphasize you do want your salesperson to sell themselves.
No,
yes,
I know you do.
You do. However, like Greta said, BS meter, because I have worked with so many people who have sold high ticket from like 7K to 30K programs, by the way, just so everybody knows, like I've worked in 7-figure, 8-figure businesses with sales teams, right? Like these closers are closing. Each closer is closing like $5 million, okay, a year, minimally that I've worked with. So I have listened to a lot of sales calls, hired a lot of sellers, have heard a lot of reasons why I don't want that person on my sales team. Judy, you need to find me somebody. What is going on? I've learned what not to do. And I've also learned that, that person's they're not going to come in and do the work for you. And until you've worked in that environment, until you've listened to 1,000+ sales calls, you're not going to know. Right. Yeah. You may have to hire, by the way, you probably, your first 3 hires may not be the best hires, and that's okay. You'll figure that out very quickly. But there is a skill to anything of hiring somebody. And you are the coaching client that is like, you would be able to call BS on probably who's coming in, like what your customer is like, are they going to do the work? Are they coachable? We're able to do that for your team.
Yeah.
Are they going to come in and are they going to do the work? And very quickly, like 9 times out of 10, we're right. 9 times out of 10, we're right about what will happen. But we'll still let you hire them anyway if you want to. We're like, let's go.
Oh my goodness. What a fun episode. I'm just psyched that, like I said, the world gets to hear these combos that we get to have all the time. And like I said, the next episode's going to be awesome because Judy's going to be walking you through, okay, so now you guys have told me I have to do a sales call. What do I actually do on that sales call? Like my armpits are sweating, right? How to take like the scariness out of those sales calls. So get excited. That one's coming soon.
I love sales calls.
That's a wrap on today's episode. I hope this gave you some clarity and, more importantly, the confidence to simplify and scale your business without adding to your plate. Before you go, I have a quick favor to ask. Leave a quick review and get a coffee on us. Reviews help more business owners like you find the podcast, and we love reaching them. As a thank you, each week we'll randomly pick a reviewer to win a coffee on us. Starbucks or Dunkin', you pick. Just leave a review, screenshot it, and send it to us on IG at Bringing Simplicity to Enter. And if you could use more simplicity in your biz, be sure to hit subscribe so you never miss an episode. That's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with us. Talk to you next week.